Good morning and a very warm welcome to the third European Commission Annual Conference on Technical Support. And in a moment, we're going to be hearing from administrations in other member states for our panel discussion. But first, I'm joined in the studio by the Deputy Director and Head of Unit for Governance and Public Administration at DG Reform, Daniele Dotto. Welcome to you, Daniele. Now, we first met in 2021 at the conference Fit for the Future, and we talked then about the resilience of member states in the face of all of these crises. Now, I know that since then the Commission has set up an expert group. You meet quarterly, I think, with representatives from member states. And I know the Commission's gone public on a number of the challenges you've identified. I wonder if you could give us an overview of those challenges and what do they mean for resilience?
Thank you very much. Good morning, Naomi. Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Indeed, as you say, we met in November 2021 when we organized what was the first and the biggest conference on public administration from the European Commission.
So essentially, you're saying that the reforms need to bring a combination of new working methods, new skills and knowledge that's based on data.
Absolutely. That's exactly it.
Okay. So how important then is technical support for the successful implementation of these key reforms in member states?
I would say that technical support is obviously extremely important, additionally provided by the European Union.
Yeah, it's fascinating to hear that really what people really want to know concretely and know that you're on the right track. Now, the focus of this year's conference, of course, is how we ensure that public administration is fit for the future and adaptable to change. And that's what we're going to be talking about in our panel. So let's talk a bit more about some of these challenges, the reforms needed, and some shared good practice with our panel of distinguished guests. Let me introduce them to you now. They're across Europe, and they are joining us from Paris. We have the OECD's Director for Public Governance and Director for Public Affairs and Communications, Elsa Pilichowski. Welcome to you. Joining us from Berlin is the Deputy Director General for Public Service at the Federal Ministry of the Interior and Community, Dr. Kai Otto. Warm welcome to you. From Athens, the President of Greece's National Centre for Public and Regional Administration, Paraskevi Dramatlioti. And from Nicosia, Cyprus, we have the Mayor Konstantinos Yokagis. So a warm welcome to all of you. We really appreciate you being here, appreciate your time and your expertise. And a reminder to those of you watching that we do want to hear from you. So do write your questions in the chat as we go along, and we'll do our best to get to some of those. A reminder, the chat is just below your screen. So if you can't see it, shrink your screen, you'll see the chat tab, and you click on that. We heard from you, Daniele, about the reforms there that are needed. So let's bring in Elsa, if we can, for the first question. Elsa, we've been talking about reforms in the EU since I was a junior reporter. So from the OECD perspective, why do we need them? What are the changes, the benefits that these reforms will potentially bring, both to citizens and to public administrations themselves?
Many thanks, Naomi. And of course, I'm like you, I have heard that since I was a junior researcher also at the OECD. So many thanks to the European Commission for the invitation, to Mario Nava and Daniele Dotto in particular for this invitation, but also for our excellent collaboration over time. To respond to your question, as Daniele described, we are living really in a poly-crisis environment today, and in such uncertain times with huge present and future challenges that every citizen is aware of. And I look forward to the discussion of this panel this morning. Thank you very much.
Elsa, for opening our panel debate there, and certainly collaboration as well. We're so pleased to have you here, and we'll be hearing more about that. Just a very quick question to you. How important is it, do you think, that we really start thinking about reforms as a continuous process in policy making?
So this is really an important question for the future. There's something about governments that make them slower than the private sector.
Thank you so much. Lots of points there we're going to try and come back to as well during our panel about public-private relationships, future technologies, lots for us to talk about. Daniele, did you want to say something there?
Thank you, and thanks to Elsa for highlighting once again how close we're working with the OECD and how common values we have. And I would like to pick up on a point that Elsa has made, which is about the principles of public administration.
Sure. I saw Elsa nodding along there as you were speaking, Daniele. I want to open up to some of our other panelists as well. Daniele, you mentioned earlier about how gaining skills is one of the major challenges ahead. I'd like to come to you, Kyoto, if I may. What's the situation like in Germany regarding skills? And what are you doing to ensure that there are high quality, highly skilled staff in public administration for the future?
Yeah, thank you, Naomi, and thank you to DG Reform for inviting me to speak at this important event. We are all faced with the new trends and challenges in the public service, and I'm pleased to share my perspective on this topic. And it's clear that our countries only work if our public service is strong. Thank you.
Thank you so much there. There's lots to take in. Really interesting to hear about your experience and also to be reminded about the generational difference in expectations and also just to be reminded of why we're here, the importance of this work because it affects our societies, the well-being of our society. So thank you for that. So we heard the German perspective. Let's move on to the Greek. It's a different institutional and administrative setting. Can I come to you, Paraskivi, and ask what are the particular challenges you see in Greece regarding skills? And what do you consider are the main elements of a modern skills portfolio that public administrations should equip their staff with in order to build a modern and resilient administration to effectively tackle these challenges we've talked about?
Thank you, Naomi. So I think that learning from others is very important, especially during crisis.
That's great to hear, isn't it, Daniele, about that sharing of expertise between member states, as you know, as everything they've learnt from these crises to be prepared.
Absolutely.
Good to hear that.
Absolutely.
And I think let's move now, unless you wanted to jump in there, but let's move to local administration. We've heard about the challenges and needs for reforms at the level of member states. So I'd like to bring you in, Konstantinos Yorkagis. Can you tell us more about the importance of the local administration and its readiness to change and adapt to current and future developments?
Well, at first, good morning to everyone. And there is a role for the people, and that can be best expressed through local authorities.
Thank you so much. I think you explained very clearly the vital role of local administrations and that sense of you being on the ground, having that daily interaction. I think it's really important. Given that, then, what support would you say, you touched on some, but what support does local administration need so that you can further increase your capacity to meet all of these challenges?
I could easily say, obviously, training.
Yeah, I'm going to bring you in there because we hear a lot about AI, the future skills, but that was to hear a real example of this is what's going on, it's changing so quickly, this is how we need the support and training. Can you bring in maybe then how TSI can help with this? Because this is obviously a shared experience across public administration.
Absolutely. So first of all, to say a word about the TSI itself, we're not going to explain the details. I will not elaborate more on the flagships because we don't have time, and also because this will come later in the morning.
It's really helpful. Yeah, the time is flying by for our panel discussion. We knew it would. We've been asking for your questions. You have been sending them in. I've got some here. I'm going to see how many I can get through. So they're picking up on some of the conversations we've been having. So Elsa, I've got one for you. What are the factors that make jobs in public administration less desirable? It says a corruption and politicians' disproportional influence over public administration mentioned in this context. So that's for you. To Elsa. Oh, I can't hear you. Oh, yeah, I can now. Yes.
Closer to almost in touch with our citizens and immediate democracy.
You
want to respond to that request?
Absolutely. I'm not in a position to endorse it, but I'm very happy to hear this, and I can confirm to the mayor that the TSI has allowed us in the past and will allow us in the future to work with the local authorities. Very quick, thank you very much. So thanks to everybody. I really think this morning we felt what we can define the spirit of a team Europe, meaning that we're joining forces between the member states, the European Commission, European institutions, and I will also include the OECD in this one, to support the member states in the efforts that they're doing to do reforms. How we do this? TSI we mentioned, expert group we mentioned, and just a little bit teaser, we're working on a new initiative, a new political agenda of the Commission to enhance the European administrative space. This has been mentioned, anticipated in the 2023 Commission working program. I will say no more, but
we'll
next
as
a teaser for the next.
At time, we're over time. Thank you, huge thank you to all of our panelists. It's been a great conversation. I'm sure you'd agree. We've covered a lot of ground, so thank you very much indeed for your time. Now, we have been talking about TSI and how it can support public administrations in change, but it's much wider, of course, than just support to public administrations. It can cover a wide range of areas. And here's a look at how it works.
The technical support instrument supports the EU member states with their reform agenda.